Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to our first episode in our Let's Talk series. So today we'll be talking all about the Lion brand Mandala yarn, and I will be giving you my full review on the yarn. So let's get into the video. So to start off, I want to give you guys the full specifics of the yarn. I'll be reading straight off of the yarn label so that you guys can see what Lion brand recommends you use and any other specifications about the yarn. That's pretty much it. So let's get straight into that. Reading right off the label, I'm going to start at the very top, work my way down. This is 5.3 ounces or 150 grams. For people who, I mainly look at yards, so it's 590 yards or 540 meters. This yarn is machine washable and dryable. It is 100% acrylic. It is a light 3-weight yarn, and the recommended needle, so the knitting needle size, is a US size 5 or a 3.75 millimeter needle size. And for crochet, the recommended crochet hook is a size 5 millimeter or an H hook. The color for this, if you guys are interested, I just got this one. It is called Thunderbird. So that's everything that is featured on the label that Lion brand has put into. And on this next section, I will be telling you what I have done with this yarn and whether the needle size and the hook size really do the yarn justice. Okay, so I have 2 projects started on the Mandala yarn. If you saw my podcast episode 3 I believe, I featured 2 skeins of the Mandala yarn. One was, I believe, Centaur, and the other was Sphinx. And I wanted to see how it crocheted and how well it knit up. So I started 2 projects with both of the skeins of yarn. Now, the hook that I used for my project, my crochet project, was a 5 millimeter hook, and I have it right here. I just used this 5 millimeter hook. This was the recommended size hook for the yarn, and I just want to let you guys know that it was perfect. Now, the only reason why I kind of had reservations about the hook was because I have Bernat baby yarn. If you've seen my knitted blanket throughout my podcast, and they recommended an actual a 4.25 or it was a 4.5 crochet hook. I can't really remember. I lost the yarn label, but I remember that specifically. So I was really concerned as to why why this yarn specified for a bigger hook when it had the same exact yarn weight as the baby Bernat yarn that I have. And I realized that this hook works very, very well for the type of textured yarn it is, and I will be getting into what I mean by the textured yarn at the end. But I want to let you guys know that using a 5.5 millimeter hook works perfectly for this yarn, and you won't have any issues with that whatsoever. The stitches come out perfectly and they don't come out too tight. Now, for the knitted project, it recommended a, it recommended a size 5 for knitting needles. So I went to my local Walmart and I was intending to pick up some size 5s, but they didn't have it. Instead, I got size 6 yarn. I would like to say that I haven't had any problem with loose stitches because of the needles. If I had loose stitches, it was because of my tension. I am a very new knitter. I've only been doing it for a year, so my tension is off, but I suggest for beginners like myself to size up the needle because it's really, really helped me with bettering my tension. And I know if I had gone down a size, I would have had, my stitches would have been way too tight and it would have been impossible to work with. So if you are using the Mandala yarn for knitting and you're a beginner, I would suggest until your tension is better, you size up, and it works perfectly with a bigger size hook. I haven't had any like because sometimes when you use thinner yarns with bigger hooks or bigger needles, you'll get large gaps. I haven't had any of those large gaps in my project at all, so just know that US size 6 knitting needles work perfectly with the Mandala yarn. Now I want to get into the meat of it. You guys know that I do love this yarn. I am even doing a giveaway featuring this yarn. So I have my qualms with it aren't that great. There are some cons to the yarn, but they do not outweigh the pros, so that's a good thing. I'm just going to show you. This is the yarn. This was Centaur, I believe. Yes, this was Centaur. And this is what I'm using for my crochet project. And I just want to say off the bat that this is the softest yarn that I have ever felt. Usually when I use my Red Heart yarns, I would have to wash my project afterwards with some fabric softener and it will get soft. But this, straight off the bat, was just, oh, super duper soft. And for me, when yarn is soft like that, it doesn't cause irritation on my finger, because I do hold my yarn like this when I'm crocheting, and I have not had any irritation whatsoever, and I love that about this yarn. That was one of the biggest factors for me, because I do get, from yarn being too stiff, I get cuts on my finger and it makes it really hard to crochet. So a definite pro of this yarn is that it is super soft. A con is that as I was crocheting with this yarn, I realized that some sections of it were fatter, some sections were thinner, and I'm not somebody who really likes that sort of texture in my stuff. I don't like the way it looks like, makes my stitches look bigger than some of the other stitches. So what I found myself doing was having to take an extra step would be to tighten my tension for one portion of the stitch and then loosen it as I went through. That, it's not hard, it's really easy, but I like my yarn to be really consistent. I'm not into textured yarns, so that was a big con for me. Not big enough for me to hate the yarn, but I wish that it wasn't like that. Another pro is the color transitions in this yarn. It is gorgeous. The way that it fades into each color, it's like flawless. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And sometimes with variegated, well, not variegated, but with ombre yarns, you will get a really harsh color transition and it kind of throws everything off. Not with this. I think the color combination is crazy already, but the way that they perfectly faded into the next color really makes me appreciate this yarn. It is gorgeous and I love it. That is a definite pro for me. Now my last and final con would have to be that the yarn does pill. I believe that's the right word. If it has too much friction on the yarn, it causes these fibers to pop out and form these little beads. I'm trying to save my projects for my podcast, but what I can show you, I guess it's not technically pilling, and that's how the yarn is supposed to be made. It's supposed to be a little fluffy. If you can see that texture, let me see. It's supposed to be a little fluffy like that, which is fine, but for my knitted project, I don't really see it working out very well. But for my crochet project, it should be totally fine. I'm not one that really likes that. It doesn't look good to me. It looks really messy and like somebody just grabbed it and was like with something like really rough. But I just know, actually I noticed that it only is on the outside where I was touching the most and when it was in my yarn bag rolling around the most, because the inside is completely clear. So I am not a big fan of that. If you're like me and you don't like the way that looks, then I haven't really found a solution on how to fix that. If any crocheters out there or knitters have any suggestions on what I can do to combat that, please let me know down below. It's not a big enough con for me to discard the yarn at all. If that's how it's gonna be, then I'll have to get over it. But just know, when you knit or crochet your project, over time, with the constant rubbing against your clothes or just lying on the floor or wherever you store your stuff, it will get this little hairy like film type stuff, if you guys can see that. So yeah, so those were the pros and cons of the yarn for me. So now I'm just gonna move on into my final thoughts. My final thought is that the yarn is gorgeous. The yarn is very easy to work with. I had no splitting whatsoever. If I split a yarn, it was when I was knitting, and it was because I wasn't paying attention where I put my my needle. Other than that, the yarn is solid. It feels really good to the touch and really good in the hand, and it works up very, very quickly. It's just that smooth, and the color transitions are gorgeous, and you will not be disappointed when you purchase this yarn. Besides those couple issues that I had with it, there is nothing else that really reflects badly on the yarn. I would purchase this yarn again. I actually plan on going out to the store and getting some more. That's how much I love this yarn. Lion Brand, you did a wonderful, wonderful job with coming out with this yarn. It's really beautiful, and for my first time using lighter weight yarns and trying to explore new things, I'm really happy that I chose this yarn to start that journey. So I would like to tell you guys the retail on the Lion Brand website. It is $7.99, but I got these at Walmart for a little over $5. They are only at, I believe Lion Brand said 500 Walmarts in the world, I believe, and fortunately mine was one of them. There's nothing else that I have to say about the yarn. I highly recommend this yarn to you, and I highly recommend that you go into the giveaway so that you can get some Lion Brand Mandala yarn of your own. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to our first ever Let's Talk video, and I will see you in the next one.